Hi, this is getting ready for sight reading at the piano. I'm going to walk us through the PowerPoint slides that appear in this presentation. There are clickable links on reviewing more of the topics at hand. Sight reading is helpful to make you a better musician, a better reader of music, and in this case, making you more successful at approaching music that you are about to play on the piano. So when you're sight reading, you want to be aware of the time signature, observe and define what the time signature is in the music. To review more on time signature, just click on that link and it takes you to musictheory.net and you can get introduced to the time signature in music and what it means. A second good practice habit for successful sight reading is to determine the counting pattern in the music. So once you are familiar with the time signature, observe the notes throughout the music. Identify the rhythmic value of each note and the counting pattern. Here is a link to review what note duration is in music. As you go through each one of these, it introduces you to what the note values are and what they are called in music. Next, count and tap the rhythm that you are sight reading, and I'll talk more about that later on. Another important practice habit for sight reading is to use your keyboard and staff note identification. So what we mean by that is you want to look at the notes in your music, ask yourself, what is the highest note? What is the lowest note? This gives you a range of the notes that you can anticipate playing. To determine the note names, remember to think about your landmark notes on the staff and the keyboard. You can use the acronyms for finding notes in treble clef or in bass clef to determine and locate the piano keys silently. So in treble clef, here's the lines. Reminder, every good boy or body does fine. And the spaces spell face. In bass clef, it's good burritos don't fall apart for the lines. And in spaces, all cows eat grass. And this is a helpful shortcut, but if you want to review more on note names and how we find those in our grand staff or on our keyboard, click on this link and it will take you to musictheory.net, learning about the staff, the clefs, and the ledger lines. So again, if you click through each one of these and you can get familiar with where the notes are on the staff and what happens throughout as you engage in lines outside of the staff, right? Adding what we call ledger lines. Okay, I'll encourage you to check that out on your own. Okay, continuing with our presentation here, the next practice habit for successful sight reading would be to observe if there's any fingering to be aware of. Are there any fingering suggestions? Prepare the fingering as shown in the music. In this music excerpt, notice the right hand needs to prepare finger 3 on the note E. So when we're looking at treble clef, in this case, we're preparing the right hand. So thinking about the practice steps so far, so if we look at the time signature, there is no time signature on this example, but we'll continue. So we'll look at the rhythm. So the rhythm looks like we've got, we've got a quarter note, half note, quarter, 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 quarter rest, quarter note, and then followed by 3/4 rests. So these are examples of successful sight reading practice strategies. And then the last thing is you want to, before you dive in and play on the piano, be aware of your posture and position at the piano. Ask yourself, are your feet flat on the ground? Are you seated at a reasonable distance from the keyboard? And finally, when you are about to play, establish a slow, steady practice tempo so that when you begin to play the notes on the piano, A slow, steady practice tempo allows you to process eye-hand coordination and combine your knowledge of the note names and note duration, performing the music you are reading as accurate as you can the first time through. So establish a slow, steady practice tempo by counting aloud 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, depending on the time signature, or if there is no time signature, because I'm giving you short excerpts to practice, just give yourself a steady pulse and then begin playing. So let's go back to this short example, and I've got my piano here. It starts with a space note, treble clef, and it's finger 3, right hand on E, but I'm going to clap through the rhythm first. Thinking about the notes actually. So it looks like our highest note is on that top space, which is E, and the lowest note looks like it's on line number 2, which is G. Okay, and here's the rhythm. 1. So I'm going to give myself a steady beat, and I'm going to clap and count the rhythm. 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1. Rest. 1, 1. Rest, rest, rest. Okay, now I'm going to prepare finger 3 on an E. I'm going to find the note. So it's E, and it goes down, and it went back up and back down, and then it repeats, and then it goes down again and down again. Okay, now I'll use a steady tempo. Ready, go. 1, 2. And maybe that sounded familiar, and that song was Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. The rhythm was a little bit different than what was on there, but I was just giving this example as a short sight reading to engage in practice. Okay, that concludes this presentation. I encourage you to review those concepts and integrate that into your practice as you practice for sight reading short music examples.